morning everyone. My name is Karen Robinson and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia. Welcome back to my 12 Weeks of Halloween series. Today we're up to number 2, and a quick thank you to everyone who came and had a look at my very first video last week. It was my first one, and I'm still learning and trying to make improvements, so we'll keep going and move on to today's project. So this week we have another little box. My projects, all my 12 weeks of Halloween projects are 3D projects. Little treat holders So this little 3D box, this is a very common pattern. It's been around for a long time. I did not invent this particular box, but the scoring lines for this box I did find on Pinterest, and there was a template that was shared there from a German demonstrator, and this is her name and her blog. I'm just making sure that you can see that. So Janina, I'm not going to try to pronounce the rest of it because I just will be butchering it, so that's why I've got it written down. And there will also be a link in the accompanying blog post to the pin, and which will take you to her blog post as well. So let's get on with it then. I'm once again using the Plaid Tidings DSP for my little box, and this is the sheet I'm going to use today. It requires just a 6x6 piece, which is perfect because this is a 6x6 DSP pack. So I'm going to grab my Simply Scored and we're going to do some scoring. I'm just going to very quickly check and make sure that that is in the shot so you can see where I'm scoring. So once again, as I mentioned last time, I like to use the small end of my scoring tool to score with. If you tend to press quite firmly into your paper, use the fatter end, because this is thinner than cardstock and you can tear it. So if you want to use that end and have a thinner line, then just make sure that you use a lighter hand. So first of all, we're going to score it at 7/8 of an inch. Oops, daisy. Oh my gosh, I promise I could do this. 7/8, 2.5, 4, and 5.5. And now while we're on this, in this orientation, we're just going to make a couple of little marks at 3.25 at the top and bottom. So just a little mark here, and I'm just going to grab a ruler. You can't just flip this around, just get it in the right place, just to give me an idea that I'm in the right groove, and make another mark at the other end. And what we're making is we're making a mark at the halfway point between the 2.5 and the 4 inch here, so we can make the triangle, which is going to give us this lovely little indented triangle in our box. Then we're going to turn our paper over 90 degrees and we're going to score it at 1.5 and 4.5. And that's all the scoring on the scoreboard. A little bit more scoring. So I am going to grab, this is the mat that goes in the Stamparatus, and I'm going to grab this, and so I've got a little bit of give because I just have my paper just straight on my desk, and I'm going to make those score lines, join those score lines up that I made before, if I can see them. Sorry, I've just realized I've got the wrong glasses on. Let's change those out. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go, there's one. I can't see any of my score lines. I can see them from the back. Love the plaid paper, but I can't see anything. So I'm just giving it a quick fold so I can actually see where I have made these score lines. And sometimes you just need to do that. So I should have, I've tried to improve the lighting and now I can't see anything. I should have a little mark here and here, here and here. How about if I get a pen so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So I did make a little mark here, and maybe I should have done that with a pen. And then I also made a little mark here, which is halfway between this score line and this score line. And what we're going to do is we're going to just make a triangle and join that point with these joins here. So just grab a ruler, grab your scoring tool, and just join those up. Just be really careful if you're coming the way that I'm coming, that you don't push too hard right at the end, because you can tear your paper. I've actually done that a couple of times. And then we're just going to find that corner there and join that end up. Sorry, I probably should have chosen maybe a less busy design, but we'll make it work. And next time I need to put on my right glasses. I'm very short-sighted, but the glasses I have are super strong and I can't see up close with them anymore. So now we're going to do some trimming. So on the side that has the triangles, point that towards you. And we're going to trim up here. So we've got this little kind of tab here. Well, it's going to be a tab, and then this bigger one here. And what you're going to do, and if you need to, by all means score it, we're going to cut up here to this triangle, wedge in a little bit, wedge in the outside edge, and then cut off this score line here. So we're making the tabs that are going to join the box together. So once again, I'm cutting off my score line. So I'm just cutting inside the score line. It's probably way too generous, doesn't really matter. And just cutting a little wedge off here. And then cutting this bit off. So you're just going to turn it 180 degrees, and you're going to repeat it on the other side. So we're just going to cut up to where these triangles start, wedge in, cut a sliver off the top, and then cut this little bit off. It doesn't matter if you cut a little bit more of it off, we're just creating tabs for the side of the box. And the last one, wedge in, sliver off the side, and this little bit here. Sorry, I think I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so I'll keep going. Okay, now I'm going to grab my bone folder. I'm going to fold and burnish all my score lines so I get nice crisp lines. My box comes together well and sits well and looks nice. And last one. And then for these ones, I'm actually going to fold them the other way, and I'm just going to use my hands, my fingers. I'm just going to finger fold them. So these are the little triangles, the sides that fold inwards. So even though I've made a mark with a pen now, you won't see that. If you needed to make that, I mean, you could use a pencil and just rub it out afterwards. We won't worry for that today. So this is what our box looks like so far. Now, for this one, you are definitely going to want to use a corner rounder, and I'm using the trio punch again that I used last week. Now, if you don't have this punch, you might have just a corner rounder from the the past, it doesn't matter. If you have any of the punch boards that we used to carry, usually they have corner rounders on them as well. So any sort of corner rounder will matter. So we're just going to round the corners on these two bits here, two ends. Now for one of these, for the big tab, rounding the corners is optional. You don't have to do that. I just like the look of it. But for this little one, you will need to round the corners. And if you don't have a corner rounder, you will just need to trim it then, because that is what, this is my little practice sample piece. That is what is going to keep your box closed. So that just will slide in there and keep it closed. But you will need to take a little bit off. If you don't have a corner rounder, you can just trim it a little bit with your paper snips. So I would just do a little bit and then try it, and if it needs a little bit more, and then take off a little bit more, because you can always take off extra, but you can't put it back if you've taken off too much. Okay, let's put this together. I'm just going to use Tombow again, which is perfect for this, and add some to the tabs, same as I did last week. I'm going to glue these together, and you just will need to really just hold it for just a few seconds until it grabs. So it's not fully dry at this stage, but it's, you know, it's enough that it's grabbed and it's in place, and then it's drying. And then the back. Did something funny with my scoring there, but anyway, that's all right. We will make it work. And the last tab. Being too brutal to my poor box. These are so cute. I love these. I love the look of them. They're just a different shape rather than the more straight sides and everything. It's just cute. So here's our box. It's all ready. So we've got our triangles already going inwards. So push it closed, and then this, if I've done it all right, should just, let's fold that back bit back. This should fold into the back here. There we go, and keep everything closed. So, and then this will just fold over, and it's a nice decorative flap at the front and covers, you know, this kind of join here. So give my glue a little bit more time to dry. We're just going to put this aside for the moment, and then we're going to work on the tag. Now what I've done is something very different for me. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. I'm not using any dies today. I'm just using punches, because not everybody has dies, not everybody wants dies, but you still like to be able to, you know, add a little tag and stuff. And punches are great. They're inexpensive. You can buy them everywhere. They last forever. And when you see my punch, I have a really old punch. They really last a long time. So the set I am using today is tags. This was in the holiday catalogue last year, and it is now carried over, and it's in the annual catalogue, and it's lovely. It has these tags, a Christmassy one, a Valentine's one, and Halloween one. I'm going to be using that one. So one thing, and it also has a coordinating die set, which is the trio of tags dies if you do like die cutting, and these are connected, these dies, and then there's some little extra ones to, you know, embellish them as well. And that means that the stamps are also connected. So there are actually 3 stamps in here, and they're all connected just to make one big stamp. So you can just stamp it and then die cut it, which is great if you do want to make a lot of tags in a hurry. Simple, but we are doing something a little bit different today. So I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to grab a post-it note. A bit of scrap paper here. So I don't want the outline. So it stamps this outline. And I don't want that because I'm not using the dies to cut these out. That would actually be too big for this little box. So I need to get rid of that. And this is a very simple way to get rid of that. And you can use it with a lot of other stamps that might have an outline and you don't want the outline, but you do want the image inside. So I'm using Rich Razzleberry. This is the old style ink pad. So I am still working through getting the newer ones, but yeah, it takes time. Works just as well. And this is Rich Razzleberry. So I've got my stamp is already mounted. I've mounted it onto an eye block, and I'm just going to ink up the bit I want. I just want the middle one, so I don't really worry too much about the other ones. And I'm going to stamp it on a Post-it, and I'm going to stamp it towards the top where the sticky part is of my Post-it, which is just going to make it easier for when I want to put it on my cardstock later on. So I'm just going to stamp it down. It doesn't have to be beautiful, this impression. And there is my tag stamped. Oh my gosh, brain work. So what I did was I just simply got my paper snips and then I cut out the image from inside the outline. And what I ended up with was this, which I've used a few times, as you can tell. So this is what I cut out, and this is what I've ended up with. So now when I stamp this, I'm just going to get this inside bit. So I don't get the outside, which means I can cut it out with something else, or as I'm doing today, I'm punching it out, or I could even use a completely different die if I wanted to. So I'm not going to cut this out just to save time. I have a piece of Very Vanilla. Very Vanilla is not one of the colors listed in this DSP pack, but I'm liking how it's working with it. So I've got my piece of DSP. I'm just making sure I've got enough because I'm using a punch to punch it out. So I'm just going to put this at the top. So you don't have to use a Post-it for this, but whatever you use a nice thin paper like copy paper or something, because you want the image to be able to make good contact with what's underneath. So you don't want something thick like cardstock to do this from. And then when this gets all manky, I'm just going to pop this into my stamp case, and I can just use it again and again and again, and when it dies I can just make another one. It's so easy to make. So I've just made sure I've left enough room so I can actually punch. Once again, I'm going to ink up my stamp, and then I'm going to line up the outline with the outline in here. Sorry, I will try not to get my head in here. And then I'm going to stamp. Give it a few seconds to the ink to kind of make contact. And then when I remove that, I've just got this in the middle. Oops, I've got a bit of a spot there. Doesn't matter. I'm going to continue. I'm going to close this up. If I don't close up my ink pads, I will get ink on myself. So I'm just going to leave that aside for a moment, and I'm going to give my stamp a quick clean. Now, normally I use something else, but today I'm going to use the stamp chamois. It's all stained and gross. It's going to be stained and gross, but I'm just going to very quickly wipe off as much of that ink as I can. Photopolymer stamps will stain. That's just their nature. It's just how they are. But I do find cleaning them as quickly as possible after using them helps with that. So having that on hand is really good. I'm keeping mine in one of the stamp cases. You can buy these empty, and it just keeps it nice and ready to go. And I will go back later and actually clean that even more, but I've just gotten the residual ink off as quickly as possible, and it will help minimize the staining. So we've got our sentiment that we want, and I'm going to punch it out with the 1.5 inch circle punch. Now this punch is a really old style of punch. It's called a whale punch because it kind of looks like a whale on the side. There's his eye and his mouth. We do not sell this style of punch anymore. They're all this kind of punch, flat punch, or hold on, let me, here's the 2-circle one, this one that locks. They're all this style now, but I have this punch and it works perfectly and beautifully. And you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't want to buy another one because I have one and I'd rather spend that money on something else that I don't have. So works exactly the same though. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to pop my centimeter. I'm leaving a little bit more room at the front, at the top, because I'm going to punch a little hole in there. So I'm just stamping it from underneath, lining up my image where I want it inside the circle, and then I'm just going to punch it out. And there's my little image without the outline, ready to go, and I can add it to whatever I want. I think it's really cute. So to add it to my box, so let's bring it back in my box. I'm just going to close up my box. I am once again going to use a little bit more of this ribbon. So this is the embroidered ribbon that is part of the plaid tiding suite. So it comes with this ribbon, this paper, and then it comes with another stamp and die set. But I'm just going to use some of this. So let me move this out of the way. So what I did, you could definitely tie this in a bow. You could use a different ribbon, a thinner ribbon, and tie it in a pretty little bow or whatever you want to do. I am not going to do that. I'm just going to tie it in a knot because I think that looks cute. I think I need a little bit more. Oh, maybe I don't. Yeah, let's do it. I'm just going to tie it in a simple knot. Trim off the edge. I promise I can see it properly. Adjust it, make it look how I want it to look. I kind of like it a little bit up. Move that out of the way. Can trim it off a little bit more. Trim this scrappy run off. I have bigger scissors and I should be using them for that, but I don't know why I'm being a bit naughty. So that's it. That's closing it. It's easy enough to slide on and off and to put my things in there and then pop it back on. Really, really simple. Now to add this to, I was kind of debating how do I want to add this to it, and then I'm going to use linen twine. Linen thread, a staple. I think the packaging might be different to this one that I have, but it's the same product. So just a little bit of linen thread. Because the one that I have, I think it still comes on like this cardboard base. You kind of get the kinks in it. So if you just run it between your thumbnail and your finger, then it just takes it out easy. I'm just going to snip a little bit off. This I don't mind wasting so much. It's really inexpensive. It's great to have. To make the hole in the top, for this one I have the 1/8 inch handheld circle punch, which we don't carry anymore, but you don't need that. You could use any small punch. You could use, if you have the take your pick tool, you could just use that, a bit of foam, and just literally punch a hole in the top. Oh, let me move that out of the way. So if you have a small little tiny hole punch, you could use that. You could just use that. You could use a tack, a tapestry needle. You're just making a little tiny hole. You don't need special equipment to do that. Now the trick will be trying to get this through here. So I do want to put the loop through my hole if I can. So let's see if I can do this on camera. Probably not. It's one of those things that always works beautifully when you're doing it with no one looking. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. I am going to actually squashing my hole behind, so that might be a problem. I'm just going to thread it through like that, which will still be fine and it will still sit absolutely perfectly. And then I just threaded this under my knot of my ribbon knot. You could be fancy and add it on, like when you're tying the knot for the ribbon and that kind of stuff. I'm just going to pop it wherever I want it to go. I don't want it to go too high. And then I'm just going to knot this as well. Trim off the edges. And that's it. That is it. Really super simple, super cute. So I'm kicking myself because I actually have some things that I wanted to show you could put in them, but they're not here. They're in the other room. Let's have a look and see if I can. I don't know how to pause it, so I'm not going to try. I'm thinking little mini Toblerones would be perfect in here because they're the same shape. You could put little minifigs in here, little erasers. I tend to call them rubbers, but I know some people that means something else somewhere else. You could put in there little tattoos. So there are definitely non-food options if you just kind of need to sometimes use a little bit of imagination. I have boys, they've always loved tattoos, and some glow-in-the-dark bugs or something would be awesome as well, or actually really any kind of bug, little spiders and stuff, and you can keep those as decorations that you can add to your Halloween decor if you do decorate for Halloween, as well as obviously lots of little treats as well. So one thing you could do is, if you knew that you were going to make a whole stack of these for an occasion, your church group, your classroom, whatever, you could actually make these in advance. So you could just score your DSP, you could trim it and have it, and then literally at the end you could make all your tags, and then at the end all you do is glue your tabs together and tie your ribbon and pop your tag on. So you could definitely make these in advance if you thought that you wanted to make a stack of them, yeah, and just store them flat and then put them together right at the last minute. Well, that is everything from me today. Yeah, hopefully this has been a bit shorter than last week. I am trying and working on that, and yeah, I hope you like this, and I will see you next week. Bye.